welcome to episode number 4 of Swing State Update. I am your host, Austin Smith, with the great Tyler Boyer, who's joining us from overseas right now. We've got a great show planned for you guys this week. Open primaries coming to Arizona. President Trump still dominating the Republican primary field in the state of Georgia following his indictment. And we'll talk about voter registration, National Voter Registration Day, and efforts across the country to increase voter turnout and why voter registration is so important. We just want to thank you guys for consistently listening to Swing State Update. Make sure you download, subscribe, send us a review. We want to hear from you guys. This show is all about the grassroots. This is about engaging people who make the difference when it comes to these elections in the 3 most important swing states in the country, followed by the other ones that are just as important after Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. So we have a great show lined up for you guys this week. A lot of information, a lot of things happening as we head into the second Republican primary debate and as we start off the fall season, almost a year out from the general election, and actually when ballots start getting sent out in so many of these crucial swing states like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. So we have a lot to talk about, a lot of things to cover. Tyler, open primaries, trying to come to the state of Arizona through the swamp, through Uniparty, establishment, leftist, whatever you want to call it. I think we've got the graphic here, nonpartisan primaries, if we could pull it up, trying to make their way to the state of Arizona, a place that we know and love that has really been the epicenter for Republican Party politics for a very long time, where the movement is at. And Tyler, I want to get your take on this move from Make Elections Fair Arizona. They're trying to bring open primaries to Arizona. I want to get your take on that and what this means for Arizona the next 2 years.
Well, Austin, I mean, you've been at the forefront with us here on shutting down ranked choice voting, and it's good to remind everyone, where the party officially stands on ranked choice voting. So I was able to get a resolution passed unanimously at the RNC back in January that specifically stipulates that the Republican Party is completely and totally opposed to ranked choice voting. This is huge because we know the Uniparty wants to do everything it possibly can to get ranked choice voting pushed through. After we've seen the failures that have existed in California with jungle primaries, they started researching and trying to deliver an alternative to open primaries because people hate them so much, including Democrats, by the way. And so they wanted to introduce something that's so confusing and so hard for people to understand, that ranked choice voting has made its way into the forefront of elections. And this is where we saw the voters of Alaska get tricked into it. And now they're trying to undo it so quickly because it's not representative of the actual electorate base, and is actually disenfranchising of so many voters. I just want to remind everyone, we did get that done. The Republican National Committee, the Republican Party as a whole, completely and totally opposes ranked choice voting in any kind of form, and this is what this is and what they're trying to do in Arizona.
This is interesting too because, for those of you that are listeners, and maybe this is your first time, I do serve in the Arizona House of Representatives, and one of our jobs as grassroots activists or legislators is to be proactive when we see policy that's good or policy that is bad. And we saw what ranked choice voting did in a very red state like Alaska, what it has done to the state of Maine and local municipalities across the country. So I wrote a bill to ban ranked choice voting. Katie Hobbs vetoed it. But we also have another avenue in Arizona, which is the constitutional referendum alley, what the legislature can pass something in both chambers, the House and the Senate, and then refer it to the voters to codify it and refer it in our Constitution. And so I wrote HCR 2033, which would prohibit jungle primaries in Arizona, which is the Trojan horse to bring ranked choice voting to Arizona. And so this group, Make Elections Fair Arizona, is pretty much saying we don't want to have Republican or Democrat, Libertarian or Green Party primaries anymore. We want everybody to be on the same exact ballot together, and the top 2 winners of that primary go on to the general election. Do you know which state has that? That is a disaster. California. You know the last time they've had a Republican governor in California? Since like the mid-2000s when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor. When's the last time that they had a legislature that was controlled by Republicans in California? I don't even know. It's been quite a long time. And so the people that are pushing open primaries in Arizona, they claim it under the act of reducing partisanship, extremism, making elections more fair for independents to vote, when actually the most extreme thing you can do is up into primary election system in a state that has been used for such a long time. Tyler, what is your take?
Well, Austin, and this is what everyone needs to know and understand this. And this is, Arizona is the tip of the spear for all this stuff that's coming through the rest of the country. Is that their whole goal is they want to, exactly what you said, they want to get rid of the parties. They want to eliminate the parties. Well, you have to ask yourself, why do they want to get rid of the parties? I mean, why do you think, Austin, they want to get rid of the parties? What do you think that the Uniparty and the moderates and the establishment hate more than anything else on the face of this planet? What do you think that is?
Conservatives, constitutional conservatives, America First conservatives.
How have conservatives taken over the Republican Party?
I mean, and we did it from being a part of the grassroots, from the state party to the legislature. There's conservatives everywhere across Arizona in very important positions, and the moderates, the Uniparty, they hate that. That's why they're trying to bring jungle primaries to Arizona.
Well, the establishment was very happy when they controlled the party. And when conservatives learned the small secret that becoming a precinct committeeman, captain, precinct chair, precinct delegate is the avenue to taking over the party, that's when they lost their minds. They lost their damn mind. And they went insane, and they realized we're never going to get control of the party again. And again, this is the big difference between populism and technocratism, right? Or this is technocrats are maybe worse in many ways than Democrats. This is the party of this is the Uniparty. If you could name the Uniparty, you would call it the technocrat party. And what they want is they want to force their viewpoints down the throats of every citizen in America. They want to take advantage of a representative republic, which is what we have, by saying we're smarter than you, our ideas are better than your ideas, and you're too stupid to understand what's going on. And this is part of the reason why we've seen so many problems with our elections, because technocratism has infested our election policies and procedures, because they're saying we know better, we know how to control these and manage elections better, and it's going to make it much easier. And it's because they want to control the levers that manage government. And so the left, within our own party, the establishment, the Uniparty, whatever you want to call them, lost their minds once conservatives figured out how to take over their local party, take over their state party, and now national party. And this is why they hate us so much. They hate you, they hate me, they hate everyone listening to this, because most everybody listening to this is a precinct committeeman, captain, chair, delegate in their own state. And they hate you because once you can control the party, and they know that it's really going to be really, really tough for them to ever get back. So what's the only thing that they can do at this point? The only thing they can do is completely destroy the party through jungle primary or ranked choice voting or whatever they can get past that helps eliminate any kind of partisan primary, which by default will eliminate precinct committeemen for your state.
And what's interesting, to give people, let's backtrack up on our history here in Arizona. What Tyler was talking about, the establishment controlling Arizona for a very long time through the state party, through the legislature, the Ninth Florida Executive Branch, the governor's office, Secretary of State, Attorney General's office in Arizona. And Tyler mentioned the grassroots figured out how to be effective change makers, policy makers, movers and shakers of the direction of the party, to be much more grassroots rather than consultant focused. And I'll give you a perfect example. There were many of us in the legislature this last time around, Tyler, that were in very contested primaries that were almost outspent 3-1 in IEs, which is independent expenditures, or out fundraised. But the reason a lot of us won is because we are grassroots conservatives. We do talk to our voters, Republican Party-based voters, more than the average incumbent who did at the time, or people who are not actual conservatives they were campaign conservatives, but then they governed as moderate Republicans or establishments, or voted for big budgets, or voted for things that were not good policy or things that were not constitutional, and they got their butts handed to them in the primary because Republican voters today are more engaged and aware of what's going on, especially like a state like Arizona. We know what's going on with our state party. We know what's going on at the governor's office. We know what's going on in the legislature. We know what's going on at our city councils, our school boards. Our party is much more aware and focused today than it has ever really have been before. And the consultants take this back, the lobbyists who moonlight as political consultants, guys like Chuck Coughlin and the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, who want to say that they're conservative, but when it's time to do conservative stuff, they don't. They break rank. They go with Democrats. They shop for Democrat votes. They can't control other Republican members. And so they're trying to say that Republicans have lost their way, that we don't have a moral compass anymore for our party, when you could argue today there's more of that than there has ever been before, because the grassroots, the party base, is holding our representatives like myself accountable. And we answer to them and not consultants, not lobbyists, not special interests. And I'll be honest with you, I do meet with lobbyists at the Capitol. I do take meetings with everybody. My job as a representative is to listen to constituents, listen to lobbyists, but I don't let them control me like other members do. And some people at the capitals and across the country hate that. And that's why they're trying to change the system, because they're not able to manipulate our representatives anymore or control them. And so I think we have a clip here. If you guys go ahead and play it. I was with ABC 15 yesterday, and also some other people who are pushing the Make Fair Elections initiative in Arizona.
No independent candidate in Arizona has ever had a chance of winning a statewide race.
It's about fairness, and it's about allowing all voters to have a voice in the process.
Bo Lane is part of a bipartisan group of Arizonans asking voters to amend the state constitution. Instead of a Democrat and a Republican primary, make it an open primary, allowing independents to participate more easily.
They like it the way it is, and they're nominating candidates that they're not having broad appeal in November, which is the problem for most voters, are having to choose between the lesser two evils.
Republican State Representative Austin Smith opposes the open primary. He, like most elected officials, believe the system is working just fine.
The process of electing our officials has always gone through a party system. The parties are a vehicle for ideas, for your values, for your agenda, for policy ideas, and the citizens pick that.
Tyler, I want to get your take here, something that Bo Lane said.
So we all know who Bo Lane is. So Bo Lane, let's just go through who Bo Lane is real quick. He's the guy that came in a very distant second place after the Uniparty / establishment tried to push him through.
Coalesced behind him.
Yeah, he was the guy that was endorsed by Doug Ducey and pushed by the Greater Phoenix Economic Council and Greater Phoenix Leadership, which is basically, I think they're left of Mao at this point. They are more interested in controlling politicians than they are actually of getting anything done for business. And this is, for those of you that don't know, GPAC was the group that was completely controlled and puppeted by John McCain when he was alive. So this guy, Bo Lane, got his butt handed to him after the governor endorsed him in the primary for Secretary of State last time. And he is he started a company that ultimately became Lane Terralever, which is one of the biggest marketing firms that Arizona has. And these guys have worked with and for and helped leftists and Democrats all across the map. They're not our friends. They've never been super loyal to the conservative cause, and everybody that works down is a bunch of liberals. So with that being said, Bo Lane is very interested, of course, sour grapes, in disrupting and destroying the party, because the party has no interest and wants nothing to do with Bo Lane.
Right.
And this is very simple, guys. This is the people who want to destroy the party are fundamentally lying to you. because what they're saying is, oh, we'll give independents a chance. Do you know how many independents get a chance in the state of California in their jungle primary system? Do you know, Austin?
It's got to be very little. It can't be as much of an impact as like they would in a general in Arizona.
It's almost never.
Yeah.
You know why? Because what happens is in the top two scenario system, what ends up happening is it's the same thing. It's either in a very Democrat district, you have two Democrats that usually make it through then, and no
Right.
Republicans, no alternatives, no independents, no libertarians, no one. You don't have giant independent districts where independents make it through. You end up with two Republicans or two Democrats instead of one Democrat versus one Republican. So it's basically just a system that actually disenfranchises even more voters because the second biggest party in many of these places doesn't even make it through. So it's just a huge lie on the jungle primary thing. It's the same lie that's being told by the ranked choice voting people, which is like, oh, this will give independents and third party candidates a better chance. And the idiots, the complete morons in these small parties or independents believe that lie without even using any kind of critical thought, which is no one will ever get elected because how this works is that a middle ground, middle of the road, absorb, vacuum up as much vote as you possibly can will always win. And so these systems are not friendly to small parties. This is a way for them to actually eliminate the two-party system, not in favor for a
Exactly.
multi-party system. It's to actually create one party,
Exactly.
one puppeted outside controlled party. And that's scary.
Right.
That's Russia stuff. That's literally one party Russia stuff. That's how Putin gets elected every time, is one party.
And I want everybody within the sound of my voice to hear this when you're asked about this. And if they're an independent who may be leaning that it's actually conservative, that is dissatisfied with the Republican Party, I get that. I understand. There are some crappy politicians in the Republican Party. They're all crappy in the Democrat Party. I get that. But what this is doing is it is the pathway to eliminate conservatives from being involved in the party, from having positions of leadership, from being elected, because the people who are the Uniparty, leftist Republicans, liberal Republicans, are using this to eliminate conservatives from representing red districts. You're going to start seeing a lot of people that work for this organization. I think they've already reported that they have $4 million. They're wanting to raise $6 million because they have to get 383,000 signatures for this to be on the ballot in Arizona by July 3rd of 2024. That's when these signatures are due to the Arizona Secretary of State's office. I already have a bill that would be competing with it. What everybody needs to be aware of, when you start seeing these people that work for Make Fair Elections Arizona, you're going to see them outside the grocery store on the weekends when you're getting groceries with the kids. You're going to see them maybe show up at the soccer games. You're going to see them outside the library. You may see them at a gas station. They're going to start popping up in different places. Decline to sign this petition. Do not sign the petition. We can beat this right now if we prevent them from getting the X amount of signatures, the 383,000 that they need. They're going to want to try to go over that. They're going to want to shoot for 500,000 signatures. You've got to tell every registered Republican or independent leans conservative not to sign this petition online or in person. Don't sign this petition. We can kill it right now. Now, the last thing that we have to remember about this before we move on, Tyler, is that independents, they're going to say independents will have more choice to be able to be involved and vote in our primaries. Well, I'm pretty sure they can already do that, right, Tyler? Independents can already vote in Republican and Democrat primaries in Arizona, or Libertarian?
Yeah, and I want to just add to this real quick, Austin. It's not just decline to sign, waste their time. So the greatest thing that you could ever do, they don't have that many staff that are going to be out there. Anyone that's within the sound of our voice, if you see someone like this, you know what's going to screw them up so bad? If you start talking to them and never have any interest in actually signing, but spend 15, 20 minutes. This is like to save America, guys. Spend 15 or 20 minutes just talking to them, asking them questions, getting them to talk to you about it. This is like one of the greatest tactics that the left uses, by the way, with our petitions with our people. Get in front of them and start talking to them for like the better part of an hour, and you've just saved them from getting 5-10 signatures, right? So That is one of the greatest things that I would say that you can do. Anyways, going back to your question. Your question was about
Independents that can vote in primaries in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people have this feeling. I mean, we have a ton of independents in Arizona, just like some of the other states. We have a huge DMV system with a lot of new move-ins, and so we end up getting a lot of people registering to vote, not really wanting to be part of a party because they're under the age of 40. And I totally get that. Again, Austin said it best: is a lot of people like are really angry at the parties. They get mad at the parties, and we totally get that. But guys, there are so many parties within the party that we just never talk about. You know, the left has, Green Party, environmentalists. They have, whack job AOC supporters. They have pseudo communists. They have the Bernie Sanders movement people. They have Democratic Socialists is what they call them. They have all sorts of different types of Democrats, mostly that are just radical crazies, but that are represented within the Democrat Party. On the Republican side, we have liberty-minded people, constitutionalists. We have, moderates. We have different types of moderates that are all over, and everybody dukes it out. And there's really all these different parties. You just never hear about them or see them as much because they don't have a brand necessarily all the time. But if you get involved party politics, all these different corners of the party. And so I always hate when people are like, "Oh, this two-party system, they suck," da, 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 da. Because a Kerry Lake candidate versus a Bo Lane candidate, for example, in Arizona, or a Doug Ducey candidate are very different types of Republicans that are representative of different wings of the party. And so when you look at this and you say, hey, look, I want to be part of something that allows more voice for independents. I mean, the best thing to do is go register a new party. And actually in Arizona, a new party has been registered for independents. I don't know if you've heard about this, Austin, or I don't know if we've talked about this very much. But the No Labels Party.
Exactly.
Right. We haven't talked about that. No Labels is a new party that was registered by independents who literally don't want a label. They don't love the Republican, Democrat label. That's great. That's a party. It's an official party. They sign enough petitions. And so that's the first real official independent party that considers themselves independent, but actually a registered party now exists in Arizona. So you've got Republican, you've got Democrat, you've got No Labels, you've got Libertarian. From time to time, you have Green Party. There should be, if you want to start a party and be part of a party, you should start one, and you should do it.
And it's worth
there's nothing.
It's worth noting, Tyler, that since we're talking about this, and we'll end it here, is the Democrats have been trying to sue to keep the No Labels Party off of the ballot. And why would you think that is?
That funny?
I thought they wanted more choices. I thought all of us were supposed to be together. So you mean to tell me that you're not actually defenders of democracy? Anyway.
Yeah, that's the best response too, by the way, to that like Bo Lane group, right? Which is like, yeah, guys, we have a solution. It's No Labels. Are you donating to No Labels? Are you running as No Labels?
Are you a precinct committeeman for No Labels Party?
Why doesn't Bo Lane run for No Labels, right? Like it's like that is the pathway to do it, right? And so the Democrat Party, Austin's right, guys. The Democrat Party is suing to try to keep No Labels off the ballot. So all these Democrats and these pseudo Democrats within our own party, the Chuck Coughlin's and the Bo Lanes and these guys, right, that are saying that they want to have more voice, more party. They're lying to you, because if they wanted that, then they would full-fledged, full-throated support for No Labels, which is what we should every time, Austin. You should say that every time. Where's your support for No Labels? Bo Lane, where's your support for No Labels? We should tweet that out once a day.
Exactly. We'll keep you guys updated on this in Arizona. This is going to be a huge thing for Arizona the next year and a half or so, and we're going to be right in the thick of it here at Turning Point Action. In Georgia, Tyler, let's talk Georgia now. President Trump, a poll came out recently dominating the field, the Republican primary field in the state of Georgia, along with dominating Joe Biden recently in a Reuters poll. I think we have the clip here from MSNBC talking about President Trump leading the polls after the Georgia indictment. Can we get that up?
I mean, he might have a weak campaign apparatus, Brendan, but with each indictment, Trump only grows his lead over the Republican field. Can anyone really stop him?
Well, no one's really trying to stop him, and that's what's so frustrating about this campaign. We don't really have much of a campaign here, to be honest, and I think that's what you're seeing. And even as Donald Trump is clearly the front runner here, nobody is really emerging as an alternative. Nobody is even acting like they want to take him on. They're all in relatively self-preservation mode, trying to make sure that they don't offend anybody, and that's what you're going to get. When nobody takes on the front runner is going to win. I mean, it's as simple as that.
President Trump
Oh my
almost
gosh.
breaking 60% in the Republican Party primary poll. I mean, that goose is cooked, Tyler. That goose. I mean, I don't understand why people are still wasting their money going to Ohio or going to Iowa and New Hampshire right now. I mean, he's Teflon Don. The Republican Party loves President Trump. They know what kind of a sham thing this is. Your take, Tyler.
Guys, I mean, this is the situation right now. This is what we keep saying to everybody over and over and over again, which is like, guys, Donald Trump is up by like 4 times more than he was up at this point in 2016. He is so far up. It's the only way that they're going to be able to prevent him is if they try to keep him off ballots, which every candidate, and this is the problem, every candidate should be opposing. So this is the way we've described it, and this is the way I hope you'll describe it to your friends, because what was said in that interview was exactly right. There's no one actually trying to take votes away from Donald Trump. Why? Because no one's actually campaigning to the base of the party, the average primary voter. The only person that's even attempting to do some of that is Vivek Ramaswamy. That's it. Vivek's the only guy. And so the way they explain this, Austin, to other people is there's 2 islands. There's over on the right, I'll do in the video here, over on the right, which is actually my left, but for you guys viewing, the right, you have the island of America First. Over here on the left, you have the island of establishment politics. And if you try to swim in between, you drown or get eaten by sharks. And so you can really only be on one of the 2 different islands. And so Trump is on America First Island, right? And that's what he's doing. Everybody else is basically on Establishment Island, except for Vivek. And so Vivek is going over and saying the America First things that everybody wants to hear. You go through and listen to him talk about wanting to destroy the federal, fourth government, and talking about gutsy stuff like eliminating the Department of Education and keeping people's civil liberties intact when it comes to all that they're doing to take them away from the federal government, specifically when it comes to COVID. And so he's the only guy that's over on that island that's talking about that stuff. Everybody else is over here. And DeSantis was over on America First Island and kind of got ate by sharks along the way because he started floating over to the Establishment Island.
Yeah.
The only way that you take votes away from Donald Trump is if you actually campaign for Donald Trump's voters, which is everybody that's on that island.
And I got to tell you, Tyler, just from the interactions I've had with some party activists in Arizona, we have done stuff in the past with Ron DeSantis through our stuff at Turning Point. He came with us to Arizona. We went all across the country campaigning with him. And I have had more people say positive things about Vivek recently than Ron DeSantis because he's doing exactly what you're talking about, staying on that America First conservative island, because when you swim back and forth like Ron DeSantis was doing, you get eaten by the sharks or you're going to drown. You're going to get exhausted going back and forth. And I think what's important to note here in a state like Georgia, we just had, obviously, the indictment and Governor Brian Kemp not really coming to President Trump's defense, but the Republican voters in Georgia sure do support President Trump. I mean, they reelected Brian Kemp. I get that. But you've got people like Brian Kemp who are not putting their neck out there on a limb for Donald Trump, for the indictment. You've got people within the Georgia legislature who understand this. And Donald Trump's lead continues to grow in the state of Georgia. So you've got these candidates that are on the Establishment Island, and then you've got the Donald Trump Island, where he continues to grow. People continue to coalesce behind him. And I think what's going to happen here, you're going to see is before Iowa, maybe a little bit after Iowa, these candidates are going to start to drop out. And they're going to have to coalesce behind somebody to be the one that go up against Donald Trump. Now, they tried it with Ted Cruz. I think Georgia is a Super Tuesday state. I can't remember. But you're going to have these candidates. They're going to start dropping off like flies, and you have to get, the one guy that they coalesced. Last time it was Ted Cruz. Right now, is it going to be Ron DeSantis in a place like Georgia where, Trump is breaking 60% in Georgia right now. Why would you be that guy to waste donor money, to waste Republican Party activist money, to just stay up there to debate or try to beat Donald Trump by the time it comes around for Super Tuesday? It makes absolutely zero sense unless you're intentionally trying to crash and burn the Republicans winning back the White House.
Yeah, I think their primaries on this March 12th. So I think it's the week after.
Okay, but it's
Super
right there.
Tuesday.
It's right there.
But it's right there. It's early. I think they might have bumped it up earlier, and it's been a whole thing. But but I mean, what you're saying is right, which is until somebody actually campaigns for Donald Trump's vote, there's no way that he's going to lose. And he's just there's no chance, and nobody is even willing to campaign for the vote. So it's like, this is like the mind-numbing thing with Ron DeSantis, is we did a bunch of with Ron DeSantis, and the things that we were telling them early on was like, hey, this is where the party is, and it's right there. This is in a post-Trump getting elected world. This is where you have to be, and it seemed like DeSantis got it right, because that's how he got elected. He owes a lot to Donald Trump. He's been somewhat Trumpian in the way that he's just kind of just like giving the bird to the media in his first term, and then it's like he just like had his mind erased or listened to too many consultants, because he hasn't done anything to even earn any of that vote, and that's why he's tanking like a rock, like he's sinking like a rock, and why Vivek's coming up, because Vivek's the only one that's actually fighting for that vote.
Right.
So it's like this catch-22 situation where it's like, none of these guys want Trump to be elected, but none of them are willing to come to the voter and talk to the voter about the things that they care about. That's it.
The other thing too, Tyler, is
it's actually good. It's actually a good thing, Austin, because I've seen politicians lie to voters, and I'm actually glad in a way that we don't have a bunch of presidential candidates pretending to be something that they're not. I appreciate them being who they are, which is that they kind of suck, and so that's why nobody wants them.
Which is fine. Like if you're going to be a moderate Republican president, then campaign as that. Say that. Don't say that you're right of Barry Goldwater or Ronald Reagan, your hero, and then when it's time to do Ronald Reagan type stuff, you fold like a cheap banquet chair, or like you fold like Jeff Flake. I think what's important here in Georgia on this end, we'll end it with this, is so President Trump is up almost 60% with Republicans in that state. This should be a wake-up call signal that we've got to have our donor class, our Republican activists, the RNC. We love our friends in leadership of the Republican Party of Georgia. Now is the time to start raising money for the ballot effort in Georgia. Donald Trump, he's going to be the nominee. He's going to be the Republican nominee. Now it's time to start focusing on our efforts as a party, as grassroots activists, as different C4s, as PACs, laser focused on Georgia now. They know Republicans are coalescing behind him. It's time to start reaching out to these 3s and 4s and these low propensity Republican voters and start getting them aware of, like, hey, your ballot's coming this day. It's time to start turning it in for Donald Trump. We're going to be, it's time to start embedding these people in the community, what you talk about all the time, Tyler.
Yeah, and this is why exercises like Doug Ducey's organization that he started are such failures, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to just get votes lined up for like guys like Mike Pence. It's no secret that Doug Ducey's BFFs with Mike Pence, and so the Koch network is spending like $100 million to try to beat Trump, and they're failing miserably at this. So they're just wasting $100 million on trying to beat Trump in all the early primary states. Doug Ducey and his new organization, and if you're not familiar with it, you should become familiar with it. It's called Citizens for, I believe it's
Free Enterprise.
Free Enterprise, that's right. Not Economic Prosperity. Citizens for Free Enterprise. And just FYI, Doug Ducey paid himself $550,000 in the first 6 months of that.
Crazy.
After only getting basically one donation from one guy. We won't attack him because, it is what it is, but it doesn't really matter. They've only got like basically one donation, and he paid himself an exorbitant amount. I mean, he's on track to pay himself over $1 million for an organization that has raised just a few $1 million from one person. So I mean, this is the sickening type stuff. But their whole goal is they're putting bodies in Arizona and Georgia to do more of what Koch's trying to do, which is just trying to prevent Donald Trump from being the nominee and supporting guys again like Mike Pence, who nobody likes. Nobody likes Mike Pence. I don't know if even Mike Pence really likes Mike Pence these days. I mean, we're in a place where the party is clearly stepping up, saying who we want. Stop wasting money. The name of the game is to stop wasting $100 million in Coke. Stop wasting $40 million in donations to Tim Scott. Stop wasting tens of millions of dollars to Nikki Haley and Mike Pence and these failed enterprises. We need those dollars to go chase votes for whoever's going to be the nominee. And it's not just Donald Trump. It's the guys who are running all the way down ballot in some of these states. So
Absolutely.
Arizona needs the help. Wisconsin needs the help. Georgia needs the help. Of course, Pennsylvania needs the help. We've got a big Supreme Court race happening this fall there. I mean, there's so many things that the establishment could be doing to be focused on and saying, you know what, we're done messing around with this whole candidate thing. We're going to let the grassroots figure out the candidates. We're just going to win. We're just going to help win and do what we do best, which is buy TV, raise money, and support that, and then stop wasting money. That's what they should be focused on. These business leaders should really be focused on, and it's damning that these business leaders waste so much political dollars.
Yeah. And that's the difference between the grassroots conservatives and the establishment. Is like, it's not about me. It's not about my candidate. It's about saving the country. It's about making sure that we have the right people in places that you can help influence to be better candidates. If you get somebody elected and they don't do their job, we got to boot them out. That's what the party's for, to hold people accountable. That's why Tyler's a national committeeman, to hold our national representatives accountable. That's the entire purpose of it. And so you've got a state like Georgia and Arizona where we've got to all be laser focused on flipping these state backs, chasing ballots. The establishment, the Doug Duceys that are wasting the Coke money on a nice salary and to take votes away from Donald Trump. What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, if the party is going to select Donald Trump or, the Paul Gosars or the Andy Biggs to represent them, we have no say in that. It is not our job to be gatekeepers about who our nominee is. Our job is to save the country. Our job is to elect Republicans. And if they don't do their job, we hold them accountable. That's the entire purpose of the party. The party is to be the butt kickers, not the butt kissers. And, we're supposed to get those kind of things done. So that's Georgia. Tyler, let's talk before we got to get out of here. National Voter Registration Day was September 19th, Tuesday. Turning Point Action, our aggressive, great field team, was all across the country in our battleground states, literally all day long, registering hundreds of voters in very important places across the country. I think we've got some pictures here. We had teams on college campuses. We had them at gun stores. We had them outside of, conservative businesses. We have people there with our Pennsylvania team with Scott Pressler. Scott Pressler, one of the best, voter registers across the country, especially for the party. We had people in Ohio. We had them in Wisconsin, Florida, Arizona. Just an incredible job by the Turning Point Action field team, led by our managers, Driana Sixto, Lacey Nagel, and Brett Galacheski, in our battleground states, registering hundreds of voters. A very good job to them. I want to go ahead, Tyler.
I can't speak more highly of our team. Unbelievable work this week. I mean, again, you're not seeing any other organization out doing this. And the work that you guys are doing, Austin, and that you're leading the field team, and again, Driana, Brett, Lacey, Luke, we have and everybody that's on our team, both new and old, that have been here for some time, activists, new and old, are out doing things that nobody has ever seen anyone do before. And, we've teamed up with great guys like Scott Pressler and so many other local county party officials that have been doing this work for years without thanks. And we just need more of that. I know all of our team feels the same way, that we don't need thanks and we don't need any of that. We just want to win, which is, we just need more people registered to vote. And we say this all the time. Again, you need to register just one person. If everybody within that listen to everything that we do, just register one person, a family member, a friend, neighbor, you double our number of voters that we have in a community. And in specific precincts, that's all that matters, right? So like you look at precincts where it's like, we have 1,000 voters here, 500 voters there. An extra 400 or 500 voters is the name of the game, of how we, in a grassroots way, win elections. So again, thank you to the entire team for standing up, being good examples. The registering voters outside libraries, at gun shows, at gun shops, at colleges and universities. We're finding conservatives, and we're doing the job. We need 100 more organizations doing the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the left is very good at registering voters. They spend a lot of time, their money, their resources, their treasure, blood, sweat, and tears all year long registering voters right before the cutoff date in certain states. And we're going to continue to do that at Turning Point Action. We have been doing that. We register voters every single day. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm challenging you right now, get online right now, check your voter registration, make sure it's up to date. Make sure you go to tpaction.com/vote. Check out, you can use our website to see exactly where you're registered to vote. Make sure you're up to date. If you vote by mail, if you're an absentee voter, if you vote in person, we do all of that stuff every single day at Turning Point Action. As always, you got to make a plan to vote. We need you to make a plan to vote. If you're going to be voting early, you got to know exactly when your early ballot's coming in and when it's time to get it in, or the cutoff date. We want you to be a precinct leader. You've got to be a precinct committeeman, whatever your state calls it, a precinct chair, a precinct delegate, a precinct president if you're from South Dakota or Hawaii. You've got to be a precinct committeeman. You're not actually in the Republican Party unless you're a precinct leader, unless you've got some skin in the game. I know a lot of people who always get upset that they don't like the direction way the party's going. Then you got to be a precinct leader. You got to be a precinct committeeman. You got to be a precinct chair. You got to give an hour a week or 2 hours every single month to your community, to your local legislative district Republican Party or your county, your central committee. Put some skin in the game. Get your voice heard. You should be the one running your organization. You got to join one of our coalitions. We've got our tpaction.com/coalitions. Be a part of our Moms Coalition. Be a part of our Farmers and Ranchers Coalition. Be a part of our Hispanic Coalition. Be a part of these groups who hold the same values as you, so you can influence the community, so you can influence these elections. If you're not going to step up, if you're somebody who has credibility, Tyler and I aren't moms, okay? We can't go into a group of moms and organize them and motivate them to vote. If you're a mom listening to this, you've got to be involved with the Moms Coalition at Turning Point Action. If you're a farmer or you're a rancher like me, I can go to a group of them and I can say, hey, you guys, we've got to make sure that everybody within our community and our industry is up to date with what the issues are, that know when it's time to vote, that know who their candidates are where they live. That's our job, and that's what we do with our coalitions at Turning Point Action. Come to our events. We're going to be having dozens and dozens and dozens every single month, every single week. We will be having our Chase the Vote events. We'll be having our Super Saturdays. We'll be having our precinct committeeman trainings, our Robert's Rules of Order training to get you guys more aware of how the process works in your state when it comes to your state party. Just knowing exactly, what it takes to actually get your ideas and your values as a precinct committeeman across the finish line in the party. We do that stuff at Turning Point Action. And finally, and most importantly, turningpointaction.com/chase the vote. We are building our grassroots army right now to chase votes in important states like Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. We are a full-time 24/7, 365-day-a-year operation at Turning Point Action, building out our Chase the Vote efforts. Going into the precincts, our Turning Point Action app. You can go on the Apple Store right now and just type in Turning Point Action. Download our application there so you can be aware of what's going on in your community so you can start to chase the vote, register voters, knock on doors, be a leader within your community. Join us at tpaction.com/chase the vote. Tyler, I'll let you have the last few words and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, again, the ballot chase operation is only possible. You want to work backwards here. The things that we talk about every week, day in and day out at this point, is the numbers and that it takes. And I spoke, I think, to 4 different groups within 24 hours this last week. And I got in front of them and I walked them through of like, guys, statistically, let's just go through all the different things the Democrats are doing, the left is doing to win in elections. And the big question is, and the number one thing that comes up all the time is, well, Tyler, none of this really matters if they can just flip votes, if they can just change votes in the machines. It's like, guys, Do you think that Democrats are spending $50-60 million on ballot chasing operations in Arizona and Wisconsin and Georgia, if just for their own health? If they could just, if it's that simple? Yeah, of course we know they're manipulating elections. Of course we know that they're using all different types of tactics to do that. But they're also spending significant amounts of dollars to drive low propensity, less likely voters to the ballot box, which is turning out hundreds of thousands of voters on their side. And if we did the same thing, at minimum, it would throw their entire operation for a loop and cattywampus, and they would hate it. And trust me, we know that they hate it because they've been so nasty since we've been talking about this to us. So, I mean, that is the work backwards way of looking at this and saying that's also going to attract investors to spend money in your state to help defend elections. Because once you're spending tens of millions of dollars chasing ballots, then guess what? Donors want to give money to supporting uh, litigation that's going to punch back at the left, that's going to get ahead of them to defend our elections. Because a few $1,000,000 on litigation protects the tens of millions of dollars that's being spent on ballot chasing. And so then you walk your way backwards from that and you say, hey, how do I get more involved? How do I make sure that we don't have crappy Republicans keep getting to office? Become a precinct committeeman. You can involve things right away. And then before that, how do we get more? How do we win these elections in these specific places and in my neighborhood? How do I get to know my neighborhood better? Well, register more voters. If you don't have people in your neighborhood helping you out, you can download the Turning Point Action application today. Go to the top left tab, type in your phone number, and you have an immediate resource to go knock doors today. And right now we have in there high propensity Republicans, so you can get and find people that can become precinct committeemen and help you out next year. And so that's our ask today. Download the application, get involved, register voters, make a plan to vote, get involved, become a precinct leader, be part of a coalition, join our events, and then ultimately help us chase ballots next year, because that's what's going to help us win these elections, guys. And God bless you. We appreciate everybody that's out there right now working hard on behalf of saving this republic. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for joining episode 4, Swing State Update. Download, subscribe, share it with your friends. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless.
Thanks, Austin.